live stream to get rolling. This little live stream will start somewhere in the middle of me talking. I have to figure out where that actually happens. The software I'm using doesn't give me, like, it tells me we're live, but we're actually live before the software tells me you're live, so I don't have an indicator. Now I know for sure we're live. Excellent. Hello and welcome to Live at 11 from United Taps. I am Ron Howell, and a couple housekeeping things to start off. We have, I lowered the mics, so I'm hopeful that when I do like this, it's not going to blow out the sound like it has been. So I'm working on that. Well, over time, I'll try to get that dialed in exactly right. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, or any suggestions. You can also do that. Even if you're watching this as a playback, put any comment suggestions and whatnot in the comments. Today's going to be on the short side. My big toe joint on my left foot is pretty shot, and it's been shot for a long time, but I've found ways to kind of nurse it and keep it going. But the last 2 days have been pretty strenuous on that foot, so I'm going to take it really easy today. So we're going to keep things low key. Instead of a tech tip, or always being a tech tip, I'm just going to have a tap tip that just gives me more freedom to cover more things. Like last episode, we covered choreography, right? And this one we're gonna cover improvisation. So I'm just going to call them a tap tip, which can be applicable to whatever. Yeah, so we'll do that, and then we'll do the new step. I'm going to do a super short tap session. Like I said, I just want to give my toe a good day to heal. All right, so let's jump in and talk improvisation. Okay, so this is geared towards beginning improvers, or people who are doing improvisation. They're in the beginning stages of just first doing it, and also for teachers who are incorporating it in their class. So what I have found is very often when you ask, especially when you ask students to do improvisation and they're not comfortable with it or haven't done a whole lot of it, they kind of get the I don't know what to do paralyzing thing. They're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And so what I found to be extremely helpful on two fronts is to say, okay, improvisation, all you can do is stamps. And that one thing, just limiting it to just stamps, which immediately eliminates what am I going to do, right away, all of them feel comfortable enough to jump in. Now, they may not be happy about it, or they may not feel confident at first, but whereas before it's like, now it's like, okay, I'll do some stamps. I don't know if I'm doing them right or if I have good rhythm, but I'm going. So that's like an automatic, awesome first step. In addition to that, what I found is, first of all, part of the reasoning behind that, I think, is if I say, if I go up to someone and say, I need you to write a story. What's the story going to be about? I don't know if I should make it like this. There's all kinds of thoughts. But if I say, I want you to write a story about a dog that gets lost and then finds its way home. You're like, okay, I can do that. Like, anyone's like, okay, I can do that. When you give them parameters, it helps a lot. So that's kind of what happens when you give them, okay, stamps. Now I've got a solid parameter and I can follow that. That leads just fine. Another interesting thing that I found, even for the students who are okay to do improvisation but haven't done it much, a lot of times their improvisation is very wondering. It's super random, and there's no flow, right? There's no natural flow. Not that it should be great. Obviously, they're learning for the first time, and in some respects that's okay. However, I find they feel more successful when I limit it to like just stamps. And once they get confident with stamps, well, then now maybe we'll add stamps and heels, or is building it up so that they can, because when you limit it to just stamps, the kids will try to form some patterns and rhythms, which is what we want. That's exactly what we want. But when it's just totally random, sometimes they're just like just randomly moving their feet with no sense of rhythm, no sense of patterning, nothing. So the limiting it down to stamps helps a lot. And so the idea with that is then, okay, so we do it at just stamps. We'll do several rounds of that. And then if they want to just stay with stamps, that's fine. Let them get comfortable with that. Um, but if they're ready, you'll say, okay, now you can also add heels, or you can add a step. And you can slowly kind of build it up. And eventually, usually I'll be like, okay, if you're ready, you can do whatever you want, and that's fine. But the limiting it just really helps. So that's a super helpful approach for improvisation that it just makes a world of difference with the students that I work with. So, all right, Anna Paula, you are amazing. Well, you are very kind. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Anna Paula says, I can't wait to see you in Brazil. Well, hopefully, hopefully that will happen someday. I was scheduled to do that a year ago in November, and it kind of fell through. But you know, always open to it. You never know what's going to happen. All right, so that's improvisation. My tip for improvisation for people who are beginning or teachers to help students who aren't comfortable. Now let's move on to our new step creation, where I will make a step on the fly. I want to keep this kind of simple, low key today. Did I do it with the toe? Brush, toe, heel, heel, spank, both. Brush, toe, heel, spank, both. There we go. So I'm doing brush, toe and step, heel, spank, toe and step. Brush, toe and step, heel, spank, both. Brush, both, heel, spank, both. Brush, both, heel, spank, both. And 1 and 2 and 3. And 5 and 6 and 7. And 5 and 6 and 7. And 1, 2, 3 and 3. And 5 and 6 and 7. And 1, 2, 3 and 3. And 5 and 6 and 7. There we go. Anna Paul says, you inspire me. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Cool, so there's your new step. If you just jumped on, just a recap, today's going to be super short and super like low key because my toe is shot from the past 2 days, so I'm going to kind of take it easy. All right, so if you have any questions, by all means put them in the chat, or if you're watching this not live, you can put them in the comments and I'll get to those. Otherwise, I am going to move on and do a super low key short little practice session here. Kevin says this, doing something wrong is killing my left hip. I'm not sure what step you're doing. Just try to, are you holding a lot of tension in that hip? Also, so throughout the years, I've had tendinitis here. And at one point I had it so bad, I literally had to hold on to the back of a chair and teach like that. And that lasted a very long time. Well, not very long time. That lasted, I don't know, that was maybe a year, until I finally figured out I just wasn't properly stretching that. And so if I properly stretch that and my legs, I have to stretch every day, ideally twice a day, but at least once a day, or I have all kinds of problems. So I'm not saying stretching is a panacea, but it is amazing how many problems stretching. So stretching ultimately fixed my tendinitis, so I was fine. Stretching greatly affects the status of my toe. So if I don't stretch, that deteriorates rapidly. I've had various points I've started to have knee issues, and if I significantly increase the stretching of my quad, that helps that a lot. So stretching can be huge. So if you are having problems with your hips, I would stretch that out. I would stretch it out ideally in the morning and the night, but also right after you're done tapping. And so what happens is we do a tap session and our muscles are working like mad. But when we're done, those muscles stay tight. And so if you don't stretch them out, like they'll stay tight all night. And that tightness that's pulling on your joints and your ligaments and all that stuff. And over time, it starts to break down. It breaks down the joints and the ligaments and whatnot, or at least it feels like it is. But if you do a good stretch morning, night, but especially right after you tap, it helps significantly, in my experience anyway. So we'll do a little bit more. Like I said, I'm going to keep today on the short side. We'll see how it goes. Graciela, welcome Graciela. She says, I was given an advanced beginner adults 40s to 50s age group. They have been taking lessons for 5 years and are working on pullbacks, but they have terrible habits and need to go back to basics. They are surprisingly fast in their footwork considering how bad their habits are, such as flaps or touch step instead of brush step. How would you bring them back to basics and still keep it fun for them? That superb question, no easy answer. Like how? Okay, here's the two-pronged approach that I would do. First of all, I would just be blunt. I'd be just honest with them, saying, when I watch you guys, here's what I see. Like I see you doing flaps like this, and I would prefer you're doing flaps like this. And the reason why, and this is key, if you can A, explain so people understand, and B, show the benefits and difference, they almost always get on board. Like when I explain to students about shuffles, where like if it's a student that has always done this, and when they do shuffle steps, then they do this, right? I can explain to them, look, I know that you can do that, and you can do that fast, and that's fine, that's great. But if you want to sound like this, you have to learn the other way where you control it. Because if you do it your way, that's what you get. So my issue is for you guys, if you're doing the way you're doing flaps, if you go fast, that's what we're going to get instead of. And when it's like so stark of a difference, like any human being can see the difference and be like, whoa, the second one is just way better on every facet. So A, explaining, here's how I see you approaching these steps. Here's how I would prefer you approach it. A, so you can see the difference, so it looks and sounds like the better one. And B, usually there's another reason, like ultimately you're gonna be able to go faster, right? Your touch thing, like if I want to go, I can't do that if I'm doing this touch and go versus brush and go and brush and go. So explaining the difference and demonstrating the difference. So that psychologically gets them to say, oh, yes, I want to be able to do that better thing. Because if you show two people things and one's better, they want the better thing. Okay, so now we've got them on board. Now how do we approach that without them being bored? Well, part of it is them being on board, pardon the pun, should reduce them like being cranky about having to go back. But even having said that, my best advice there would be to combine, like if we're going to do a couple of, a lap, and then some other step that they're comfortable with that they can just do how they want to do, right? So like concentrate, fun, right? So mix some of that highly concentrated work with relax and have fun. This is something I'm already good at and I'm comfortable with and I enjoy doing. So it isn't all just hard thinking. It's hard thinking, relax, right? So we kind of combine those. That would be my best advice. But it's not. There's no easy solution. That is a challenging solution for sure, or a challenging problem for sure. But yeah. I would be like, look, like you're coming to learn from me. I'm going to teach you what I think is going to benefit you the most. So that's what it's going to be. But I explain why. I have yet to have a student who did adult or kid age that once I give the explanation says, no, I really want to do the other one. It just hasn't happened. I'm not saying it won't, but it just hasn't. They're like, no, I want the one that sounds bad. I want the one that you can't go. Like I haven't had that happen yet. Yeah, my pleasure, Graciela. I'm happy to answer. Like I said, there's no perfect answer. Some of these they're just tough questions, tough problems. All right, so we'll go back and do it one more time. It's a rough day for me, man. Hi, Rod. Do you have some examples of steps that can be both advanced and beginner? Beginner. For example, spank steps. Spank step can be just step back, step back. My 83-year-old needs easy. Well, the first thing I'm trying to decipher is, I mean, it sounds like the bottom line problem is I need to be able to give the 83-year-old a simpler version of whatever else that I'm doing. And the thing about that is it's going to totally depend on the footwork. Like if everyone else is doing, and the Cincinnati, draw back 1, draw back 2, draw back 3, draw back 4. You know, what am I going to give someone who needs like really easy? Touch your step. And I would do something like touch your step, step your step, step your step, touch your step, step your step. So you got the visual side, forward, back, and the basic pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So rhythmically, it's still going to slot into what they're doing, but it's going to be different. You know, it's going to be different for everything you do. Like if you're doing couple step heels, paddle and roll, big brush toe heels, that's going to be even more interesting. I don't know. So we're doing that, right? Scuffle, step heel, scuffle, step heel, scuffle, heel, shuffle, step heel. I would honestly, big step, big shuffle. 5, 6, 7, 8. Big step, dig, heel, shuffle, step. Maybe that. Big step, dig, heel, shuffle, step, heel. Big step, dig, heel, shuffle, step, heel. If you can't do the shuffle, step, heel. Big step, dig, touch, step, heel. Big step, dig, touch, step, heel. That's going to still go. So it's more of an underlying principle. I don't, you know, for any step, for most steps, you can probably, like I just did, I had 2 patterns, create a very pared down version. And I think the basic principle is pick 1 or 2 simple sounds from whatever it is. Now, I cheated on this. There's no touch. You know, I did the touch a step and touch a step. But I was going for the visual. I mean, if she can do shuffle, heel, step, shuffle, heel, step, step, heel, step, that's fine. But maybe she can't. Then you got to simplify that. So you have to go outside the framework sometimes. But the general rule is pick 1 or 2 sounds. Like for this, I'm picking the dig and the step. Da, 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 da. So while someone else is doing this, da, 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 and then while they're doing scuffle, heel, shuffle, step, heel, dig, touch, step, and heel. So I've got the dig at the same time as everybody else. So those are going to be in the middle, and then that dig, touch, step, and heel. And the heel will end. I'm starting and ending pretty much with everybody else. So for any given step that's harder, try to pick out just a couple simple sounds of that, and then get a timing and footwork that's similar. At least when I say footwork, I mean foot pattern, right versus left. Like right, left, right, 2, 3, 4, as the simplified version of that. I hope that makes sense in principle. I want her to look. Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly right. So if the rest of the class is doing na 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 na, it's close. Like you're not. Look, you can't get exact. If you could do exact, then she would be doing it. So all of these, the same thing. Da 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 da. All that. Na 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 na. You'll touch, and back and back. Actually, that's probably better. You'll touch, and back and back and back and back. So it's using less sounds, picking 1 or 2 sounds, and then just getting the foot in the right place. And usually doing those sounds on a on a downbeat or something easy. That's okay. That's helpful. Paring down is tricky. Visual is what I'm looking for. Yeah, paring down is tricky. I mean, ideally, I don't know if you prep before. If you prep before class, then you have time to work that out ahead of time. So that's helpful. If you're doing it on the fly, then it's just a question of practice. It'll take a little more time to pare it down at first, but over time you can probably speed that up. And you can always teach the main things to the class and say, okay, work on that for a couple minutes, and then go over and figure out the pared down version with the other lady. Yeah, and I mean, if you get the general foot position in the right place, it's going to be fine. You're mentioning wanting her to look like everyone else. Is this for performance? If this is for performance, then just having her foot go in the right direction and having her in the back maybe will solve that. And also, audiences aren't dumb. Like they get, okay, clearly there's someone who's a little bit older and is not as advanced, and they're not doing exactly the same thing, or they're having trouble. Like audience are pretty forgiving. Like I don't watch some and I'm like, oh, well, she's terrible. She's ruined the whole thing. No, it's like, oh, clearly she's older. Actually, that's just really awesome that she's on stage. Like, how cool is that? Good for her. So I would keep all that in mind. I love that approach. Well, thanks, Graciela. Carson, nice. All right, thank you as well. That's helpful. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions or anything else that I can help anyone with or try to help? I don't know how helpful that was. I do my best. But you guys, it's good. You guys give some really hard questions because they're really difficult situations. But that's kind of good. That's kind of interesting and challenging. Makes me think a little bit. How do I solve that? Because these aren't problems that I'm really currently facing. Like, I don't have someone that's that far behind. And I rarely get, recently I haven't gotten like a student from somewhere else where they have some really bad habits that I have to completely, I mean, I've gone through that before. But in that case, they're kids, and they're used to having someone say, no, do it like this. So it's not that big a deal. But like I said, I also give my explanation, and once you give the explanation, then they're clearly like, okay, yeah, I want to do that one. All right, cool. I'm gonna wrap this up. Oh, by the way, at unitedtaps.com, we've got lesson series. We have a beginner lesson series, intermediate, advanced. We have also advanced beginner. It's a full set of lessons for beginner, advanced beginner, and intermediate. They're 12 lessons. It's 12 to 13 hours of tapping. Our intermediate advanced series is 18 lessons. And the reason we have so many lessons is because in each lesson we do a warm-up. I teach you a step, talk about here's some common problems you might have and how to fix them. We actually practice the step, and then we put all the steps we learned in that lesson, we'll put those together in a combination. So you get a chance to use it how you're really going to use it. So those are our lessons. We also have workouts. Hey, January 1st is coming up. There's New Year's resolution, wanting to get in shape. We've got tap workouts from the beginner to intermediate advanced levels. It's just anywhere from 22 minutes to 30 minutes of non-stop tapping. It's great. Here's the deal. You'll get better tap skills, and you'll get a workout all at the same time. And it will help you sleep better. When you work out during the day and you really work your body, when comes time to go to sleep, it's much easier. You get to sleep faster and you sleep better. At least that's what I found for me. That's one of the reasons I do these practice sessions. Although, like I said, today I'm kind of taking it on the easy side. But still, the practice sessions definitely pay off at night. We also have choreography. If you're looking for full-length dances with arms and heads, and some of them even have group options where half of the dancers are doing this, the other half of the dancers are doing something else to give you a little bit more variety and make it interesting. We have choreography, all levels, beginner through advanced, at unitedtaps.com. All right. Thank you again for watching. I, of course, am Rod Howell from unitedtaps.com, making you happier and healthier through tap dance. Kimberly says, no performance yet, but just so she sees. Oh, so she sees success. Well, see, now that's an interesting question, Kimberly. You might want to just have a talk with her, and just because we often assume we have an idea of what someone wants, but we don't really know, and she might not even actually know. Just talk to her. Are you interested in like really getting this down, or do you just want to feel like you're in the flow with everyone else? And even give her the option. Be like, look, I mean, I can give you the full version. And maybe you're happy getting the full version, but being way behind and having to do it way slower, not being able to keep up. Or maybe I can give you a simple version that sort of looks similar to what we're doing, but it's not quite the same. I would talk to her and see what she actually wants to get out of this, like which route. Because once you know, and then you both talked about, you're both on the same page. You're like, okay, this is what you want, and then you say, well, this is the best I can give you for that. Maybe I can't do exactly what you want or whatever. But then once you both know once you know what she wants and she knows what how much you can or can't accommodate her based on the fact you're teaching a whole class. It's not a private lesson. Both of you will have hopefully reasonable expectations from one another and from the class, so there won't be this underlying tension of, boy, I feel like she's unhappy. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I'm not making the class as good as I can for her and good for everybody else at the same time. But like I said, once you talk, then some of that can lay to rest, and you can get in a flow and get in a groove, and she's doing her thing, and she knows how it works, and you're doing your thing, and you found a middle ground that works. That may be helpful, because that's the question: is what does she actually want? I have and use the workout. Kimberly says I have and use the workouts. They're fabulous. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean that would be my biggest question: is I would talk to her. What does she want to get out of the class? Does she want to do it all exactly right but go much slower? Or does she just want to get the feel and she's okay not doing the real thing? Now, some people will have an unrealistic, no, I want to do the right thing, but I want to do it at the right speed. Okay, well then you're going to need to A, take private lessons, or B, you're going to have to supplement. I love that you want to do that. I love that you have the drive to do that. That's fantastic. But realistically, or okay, then I'm just going to teach full speed, and you're going to get what you get. You know what I mean? Like if you want to do the whole thing, I'll do the whole thing, and I can slow it down some, but I can't be like big spank. I've got a class of 10 other people here, so I can do it a couple of times kind of on the slow side, but then I've got to go. I've got to go like up to speed, and then you're on your own. Just having a discussion so everybody has a realistic expectation. She may have some unrealistic expectations of herself, of the class, of all kinds of things. Who knows? But if you talk, then you might be able to everyone get that all out in the open so everybody knows what people's assumptions and expectations are, and then we can, if they're if they're out in left field, we can say, hey, that's not really possible or whatever. So, all right, cool. Take care. Hopefully, Sam.